Hello, Internet. Welcome to another episode of the Get Geek podcast. We're going to have a conversation about the newish film by Michael Bay, Six Underground this week. But first, let's do the introductions. My name is Jose.
I'm Wolfie.
AJ.
Eli.
And this is Walt.
And so, before we begin, I think, Walt, you wanted to do a quick mini review of a new streaming service that's, about quick content. Why don't you give us some impressions about that real quick?
Sure, why not? So the streaming service that you're talking about is called Quibi. It just came out April 6th, and for any of the T-Mobile subscribers, which I am, you actually get the service free for a year. So the platform is like I said, it's called Quibi, and it's short for Quick Bites, and that's exactly what the content is.
I was thinking that. I was like, is it Quick Bites? What does it stand for? Go ahead.
Yeah, it's Quick Bites. Mm-hmm. So this thing is backed by Jeffrey Katzenberg, and he's got a couple of big players behind it. You got Walt Disney, you got NBC Universal, Sony Pictures, Warner Media, Viacom, and right now it has about 50 different shows, I guess, if you want to call it, on the platform itself. Now, the gist of the platform is that it's only mobile based. You can't watch it on a web browser. You can't stream it from your phone to the Apple TV. It's just solely on your phone, and it's filmed in a way that you can either watch it landscape or portrait.
Okay, so it's probably more like of a TV, old television aspect ratio, 4:3 or something like that.
No, you can actually hold your iPhone the wrong way to take pictures, where it's like it's top to bottom, and you can actually watch it that way, or you can flip your phone and watch it landscape, and in both aspect ratios it'll work. So you can go 16:9 or 9:16.
So it fills the screen, you mean? Like
Yep.
and it shows you the things that it's supposed to highlight, I suppose.
Exactly.
Oh, okay. That's somewhat interesting.
That's really interesting.
A proprietary technology, which apparently the company is actually being sued by from another person that said that they had the technology to do this, but that's neither here nor there. There's some interesting shows on there, and the thing about it is that they're about 5 to 10 minutes long.
So the episodes, right? Each episode
consumption.
Okay.
One of the more interesting ones is the one that I actually really, really like. It's called Most Dangerous Game, and it stars Liam Hemsworth and Christopher Waltz.
Oh wow, they got some powerhouses.
Yeah, they do. There's another one that has Sophie Turner. I'll get into that shortly, but there's about 5 movies that are cut up into pieces, and what they do is they drop it every day on the weekday. So today, where we're recording on Saturday, there's no new episode. On Sunday, there's no new episode, but Monday continues. And so for the one Most Dangerous Game, there are 12 episodes. You put them together, it's a 2-hour movie. So the premise of that is that there's a guy, Liam Hemsworth, who's the star of the show, and he's a guy that's down on his luck. He's struggling to, make his mortgage and stuff. And then he finds out, and his wife is about to give birth to his first son. And then he finds out that he has cancer. And it's one of these cancers that are inoperable.
Wow, okay.
And so he goes to Christopher Waltz's character, who is, one of these fund managers, and he's asking for a loan to see if, he can keep everything afloat until, and hopefully gain some money to get some medical attention so that he could at least survive until his son is born. And unfortunately, he can't give him the loan, but he gives him a different proposition. He's a part of this secret society where there's all these rich people who hunt other people.
Oh my god.
So he
Oh,
gives
so
them the opportunity, and he says the way it goes is that he has to survive for 24 hours. And on each hour, he gets $50,000, and it doubles every hour that he's alive until he hits the 20th hour. And then it becomes $1,000,000, and it continues to double until the end of the game. If he survives the 24 hours, he walks away with almost $12.5 million. But he has 5 hunters after him. He doesn't know who they are. He can't use, there's no guns. He can't go and ask for help. And he has to walk around with a cell phone that's given to him by Christopher Waltz. And on every hour, it pings his location. So the way they cut it up is pretty interesting because with each episode, it kind of ends in a cliffhanger. So
Man.
I like the pacing of it. It's actually really, really good. It's probably one of the better shows on that platform. There's another show with Sophie Turner and Corey Walker, I believe is his name. I'll find out for you anyway. But that one's called Survive, and that one is about a plane crash. So the thing about seeing these shows is that the production value is very, very high. So you're not getting any cheap CW type shows. You're getting Netflix budget sized content. They have some reality shows. One of them is being Chrissy Teigen, where she kind of plays a judge in a court, and she settles wacky, court cases. There's a new version of Punked with Chance the Rapper as the host. They do little news segments. They do sports. They do everything. So there's a lot of promise to it, but there's a lot of backlash as well because especially now in the environment that we're in, where everybody's kind of shut in, the mobile thing doesn't work. This is meant for people who are very short in time. You're on the bus, you're on the train, and you want to catch a quick show. But now that everybody's kind of shut it in, there's a big backlash because you can't stream it to your TV, and a lot of people want to be able to watch it on the TV. But like I said, there's about 50 things on there. It's mixed between reality, news, sports, and movies, and they're looking to add way more. They're going to scale up very, very quickly. And like I said, there's a lot of big players behind it. So right now, I think the launch is a little bit better than Apple TV Plus's launch. But we have to see the kind of content that they continue to put out before we can say that this is like the new Netflix or the new Hulu or even the new Amazon Prime.
Well, it'll be something totally different. I feel like
it is.
Yeah, I mean that's really interesting. I think that like what they're doing is technically smart, even though they have like a bunch of backlash. Because if they are not allowing people to be able to stream it to the television, then they're not allowing people to compare their product to Netflix. So they're essentially not competing with Netflix directly.
Right.
You know what I mean? And the thing is that, I think they might be capitalizing on a little bit of a new trend. I mean, it's a trend for me where there's so much stuff out there. I don't actually necessarily have the time to sit and watch a whole movie a lot of times. So I end up watching movies in bits and pieces. Like I'll watch 30 to 40 minutes of a movie, then I'll stop and, get to like my errands or whatever and stuff like that. Then I'll watch another 20 or 30. And it seems like they're kind of capitalizing on that trend of people like being a little bit more comfortable digesting full movies, but in small little breaks,
Exactly.
Because I think that like streaming has brought that new, like a different kind of approach to movie watching, whereas before it used to be you rent the movie, you go on a date night or something like that, you make it an event, where since it's now always available, it's not really an event. You can pause it whenever you want. You can stop it, then go somewhere else, and then watch it on your iPad, then go watch it on your phone. Like, it's kind of, I think what they're doing is actually pretty smart. So especially when all of this stuff, with the quarantine and the lockdowns and stuff like that ends, they're going to be in prime position. That's clearly why they're also doing Monday through Friday releases, because they want to capitalize on the workday. So
Exactly. And like I said, I just to echo what you're saying, that's exactly right. That's the audience that they're trying to reach. It's
yeah,
just fortunate timing of when they launched, because now,
yeah,
like you said, the people that they're trying to reach are the people that are the workforce, Monday through Friday people. But guess what? Those people are home now, you know so it's just a timing issue. But
Hmm.
it's going to be interesting if they kind of relent to the backlash and say, okay, yeah, we're going to allow you to do it. I don't think they will, but hey, you never know. If there's enough people crying, you know what happens. We have Star Wars as a perfect example of that.
Yikes.
Huh. Okay. Yeah, I don't think they're gonna relent. I think a lot of these companies that have these new models, other than oh man, I can't even remember the name of that darn service that allows you to watch a movie a day for a while and then change their model. Um,
Oh, you're talking
but they
about
stick to
the movie movie
Movie
pass,
Pass,
yeah.
right? Yeah, that was one company that was like kind of flipping around its model, but this sounds like something that they're trying to commit to. And we'll see. We'll see if it works out.
Yep. So
All right.
there you go.
So
Let's get into what we were actually going to talk about.
let's get into a quick quote unquote synopsis of the film that we're talking about. Again, Six Underground is a release that was put out on Netflix. It was directed by Michael Bay, produced by Michael Bay, written by Paul Wernick and Rhett Reese, and it's starring Ryan Reynolds, Melanie Laurent, Corey Hawkins, Manuel Garcia Rufo, Adria Arjona, Payman Madi, Ben Hardy, and Dave Franco. And it's an action film. And so the quick synopsis of this movie, if I can somehow try to make sense of all of this, is uh, essentially 4 years after a brutal regime um, just did these unspeakable things that Ryan Reynolds' character, whose name is One, he's a nameless character. That's the reason for the name of the movie, Six Underground. They're all characters who describe themselves as dead or end up in a situation where they fake their own deaths and become these sort of underground operatives that really, like, I guess, like chase the biggest bad guys in the world, right? But he fakes his own death and he forms this vigilante squad that I talked about, and they take down terrorists and criminals that governments don't really handle. So One and his team, which at the beginning of the movie is two, who's a spy, three is a hitman, four is a parkour runner and thief, five is a doctor, and six is a driver. Okay. And two is sort of a Eastern European or French sounding woman. Three is a Hispanic male who's the hitman. Four is like a white English guy who's the parkour runner and thief. Five is a young Hispanic woman, and six is a young male. Okay, so this is the team at the beginning of the movie, and there's a mission that they're on in Italy. Um, and what ends up happening is they're trying to accomplish this mission, and um, they end up, well, the entire mission, it's really hard to explain this movie, but they're trying to accomplish this mission to take out some of the operatives of this Turkestan government, this Turkestan president who's corrupt. um, and the six character, who's the driver, who goes through this really cool chase scene where they're getting chased by all these guys on motorcycles and whatever else through the streets of Italy, getting chased by cars, getting chased by police and helicopters, and it's a really good chase scene to start off the movie. But he ends up dying, actually. So they end up getting away for the most part, but he ends up kind of impaling himself.
But spoilers,
while hitting the turret.
spoiler warning, spoiler warning.
Is this too much of a synopsis? All right, so he gets so 6. All right,
We should at least give the spoiler warning
spoiler
out.
warnings. Spoiler warnings. So that sets up the beginning of the movie, and then essentially the rest of the movie is it starts with Ryan Reynolds' character recruiting a new team member, whose name is Blaine. They give his name in the movie because they show his backstory, which I won't really describe here. But he ends up being number 7 in the team. So it's actually 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7 is the new 6 Underground. And they end up going on this mission to stage this massive coup d'etat against the leader of Turkestan, in which they try to install his brother, who's more democratic and more of a good guy, as the leader of Turkestan. And so the entire movie continues from there, and it's just an action ride from beginning to end. There's lots of crazy fight scenes. There's lots of crazy chase scenes. And that's, I guess, a somewhat of a synopsis with a mild spoiler at the beginning of how this movie goes. So, yeah, I guess I'll open it up for very quickly. Whoever wants to give a quick impression in the spirit of the movie, being 6 teammates, a quick impression in less than 6 words.
I guess I'll go first.
Yes.
I would say that this movie is Fast and Furious meets Deadpool. Wait, Deadpool is one word technically.
Yes.
Oh yeah, there you go.
It would be. Mm-hmm.
So yeah, basically Fast and Furious meets Deadpool. That's my 6 words.
I guess I'll go next. This technically counts as one word, this first one. Light speed. Light
That's
speed.
it?
That's
Oh.
it.
Okay. Light speed, Murica, magnets, explosions, ragdolling, and most important of all, don't.
Okay.
6-word impressions. Okay.
All right.
Go ahead.
I'll give you mine real quick. It's pretty easy for me. Bonkers, over the top, and action packed. I think that pretty much covers, especially that first one, bonkers, because the movie truly is way out there. So,
crazy, funny, brutal. Crazy, funny, brutal, clumsy, confusing, rushed, and why? Yeah.
Is that
I
7
just wanted
words?
to add that last one because
Okay.
why?
6.
So you put 7 in the spirit of the character 7, right?
Yes.
6 and a bonus word.
Good.
Why?
There you go.
Why though?
Nice
Jose,
word.
I think
Nice
Jose,
word.
you're up next.
Okay. Mine would be 50 movies in one. That's 4 words. Yes.
50
That works.
movies in one. Yeah.
It's an exaggeration, but that's my sum of it. And that's, yeah, I'll just leave it at that. So I guess we can open up the floor. Are we opening up the floor to spoilers at this point, or just general impressions?
Yeah, basically.
Spoilers, full spoilers for this movie. Okay. So, yeah, like I said earlier, I think the opening chase scene is actually pretty cool. It's a nice way to open the movie. It's got a nice little bit of shock there. Like I said, it's a spoiler that I gave away a bit earlier, but with the driver ending up getting killed that early on in the movie, especially because it's Dave Franco, he's a pretty well-known actor, a pretty famous actor. So it was a nice little swerve at the beginning. And he's one of the characters that would have worked well in the movie, I think. But I don't know. What did you guys think about that beginning scene there? Like the whole chase scene, all that.
They did a very similar thing to his brother James Franco, right? In Alien Covenant. God, what a wasted opportunity. But
I haven't seen it.
You haven't seen it.
Was it
Spoiler.
early in the movie though? Because if it's early in the movie,
Now
then I
I
reserve
can't say, but
the right. All right.
Oh, but yeah, no, go on. Sorry, guys. I really need to catch up to your level of you guys' like movie, like I guess repertoire.
Especially some of the Alien movies and some of those. You're way behind. I'm way behind on those
Yeah.
too. But I'm sorry. Go ahead, AJ.
yeah. Me personally, it's not often that I don't like being dropped in the middle of something and then have 5 to 10 minutes of unexplained craziness ensue.
It was actually 15 minutes.
It was a
So
lot.
Even
It was a long
worse,
sequence.
not adding any comfort to that. Sorry, it just no.
I didn't think that was so bad because what the movie seemed to try to do after that was kind of pull together the backstories later on in the film, kind of tell you who all these characters were and what they were up to. So I didn't see that as a huge downer because I thought the sequence was pretty fun and I thought the action was pretty good and pretty creative at the beginning there and well choreographed. Good stunts. All of that was kind of interesting and not necessarily like every other action movie
well,
at least at the
I
beginning.
I will say this. I don't think I've ever seen an action sequence where so many bodies were thrown all over the place. I mean, it seemed like there were bodies flying at the screen every 5 seconds and
Well,
in various different ways as well. People were getting hit by cars, run over by cars, flying out of cars, going through cars. I don't think I've ever seen a sequence that chaotic and crazy ever.
yeah,
You
that
know,
was probably the whole movie to me. I haven't seen that many bodies fly around in a movie in general.
they did very creative things with flying bodies. I don't think I've ever seen that before in a film. So
Yeah, without spoiling the rest of the movie, I will say that was something that was sort of interesting. I was kind of trying to pick out the sequences that were obvious CGI ragdolls and the
yeah,
sequences where they were actually stuntmen. And sometimes it was a little tough to figure out which was which was pretty good, and which was pretty good speaking in terms of the special effects.
there,
Yeah.
there is an Easter egg
Hmm.
in there.
Hmm.
A very well, it's not an actual Easter egg, but there's a part in the film where Ryan Reynolds is in the car and they're doing a big stunt.
Hmm.
And in the movie, if you look at it very very quickly, you see Ryan Reynolds as a spectator filming the stunt on screen. So you had Ryan Reynolds filming Ryan Reynolds.
Really?
Yeah, I didn't
Yeah,
catch that. But I saw that
it
scene
is. It
somewhere.
is. The only way I found out is because I did a little research. I went online and I listened to some of his interviews and stuff. And supposedly he posted this, I think, on either his Instagram or Twitter, where he showed the stunt that they were filming, and they showed it in the film, and he was in the film. I guess they digitally put him in there, but he like you won't be able to know it's him unless he pointed it out. But it was something very meta for him to do,
Yeah,
So it was Ryan Reynolds watching Ryan Reynolds on screen.
I saw that in a cast list somewhere. I don't know. I was looking up some details in the movie, and I saw that. Oh, and it's 7 o'clock actually here, and they can hear the people cheering outside and people banging pots and pans. Is something
There you go.
for those of you out there who are looking for something a little more inspirational and a little
Oh, that's
more to look
awesome.
forward to in these times. I don't know if you guys hear that in your neighborhoods, but it's definitely been going on here recently.
Yeah, my
That's
neighborhood
cool.
sucks.
Yeah, I
I'm
don't.
sure it's well.
Yeah, we don't have that going on over here in
Yeah,
Yeah.
Bushwick.
they're honking their horns and doing all that over here. So I'll take a moment to acknowledge that and thank you to all of those people out there who are helping out from the front lines in this situation that we're all in right now.
Hmm.
Um, but I don't, so not to stray too far, but I like I said, I thought this movie and this opening sequence was definitely very interesting, and the Ryan Reynolds thing, I think I caught that, like I said, in a casting somewhere. Um,
To be honest, I actually think that like the impaling of Dave Franco was the biggest letdown for me in the movie. To be honest with you, I thought that like one thing that I thought that they did decently well in that opening sequence with the car chase and everything is that you see the majority of the characters all in the car, minus the
yeah,
parkour guy. But what they did in those first 15 minutes is give you really quick character development of every single one of those characters. And I was already quickly like loving Dave Franco's character. It was classic Dave Franco, but we were already seeing him first being timid, then like getting in the zone and stuff like that, getting a little bit more comfortable with like his position on the team, and as far as like within the span of the 15 minutes go, and the mission and the intensity of the mission and stuff. But still, like him getting impaled, it just kind of sucks because I really, from a team dynamic, he represented like pretty much the new guy on the team, like the rookie. And whenever you have kind of like these team ensembles, you always have the rookie. In Fast and the Furious, it was Paul Walker. In Ocean's 11, it was Matt Damon's character. In this one, it really felt like Dave Franco's. However, after impaling him and then recruiting the new guy isn't technically a rookie since he's like a special forces sniper, you know. And the
Hmm.
new guy ended up bringing actually, more veteran. He kind of made everyone else look like new guys. So I felt like that kind of messed up the dynamic for me from a team based movie, so to speak.
Well,
I
I
agree.
think the
Yeah,
reason that Dave Franco's character, you know, he uh, he kind of bit it at the beginning was kind of like that whole underlying theme that one had the character one, where it's
Right.
like the
No, I
mission is more
understand.
important than the team. But I agree with you. I think, and I even Jose referenced it to before, where Dave Franco's character, he kind of fit with this squad, and it would
Yeah.
have been fun
yeah.
to see him
Yeah.
at least
Actually,
make it to the middle of the movie or something like that.
yeah, maybe like on like their second mission, or realistically when it should have happened, which is the right way to do it when it comes to like traditional filmmaking. Of course, Michael Bay is the most non-traditional filmmaker there is, I think. But when it comes to traditional filmmaking, there's a section of the movie called the all is lost moment. And
Yeah.
we didn't really have that moment in this film necessarily, but the all is lost moment is when the most detrimental thing happens in the film, which is usually at the like towards the end of the second act. And it's the moment where the mission has failed, possibly somebody has died, and the viewer doesn't see how they can win anymore. And we didn't necessarily have that. I think that the closest moment that we had that to was in Hong Kong when they were trapped and everybody was closing in on them, and they didn't have a way out until Seven ended up shooting the pool and kind of creating a distraction for them to get out. That was the closest moment, or rather, I guess when the parkour guy, he's number four, I think, when he was about to when they were gonna leave him for dead. That was the
Hmm.
closest. But that happened about halfway through the movie. You still have a whole hour left for you to digest, everything else that's coming. You kind of
Yeah.
forget about that emotion that you had in that moment. You know?
This movie was really long too. It was two
Yeah,
hours
it was
and 30 minutes.
it was a really long movie.
Um,
And I
and
felt like, no, go on.
yeah, no, I feel like I sort of agree with you. Like I kind of understood the point with Six's character dying, in a sense, because then they brought in Seven, and he kind of instilled more of like a family team dynamic that Ryan Reynolds ends up following. That one's character ends up following. But it also, like, it didn't even happen. Like, it could happen, like you said, Wolfie, at the end of the second act and the all is lost moment. You can pull it off effectively at the end of the first act as well, maybe. But this
Hmm.
wasn't even that far into the movie, so
Yeah.
like it. And again, like The other, who kind of didn't do it for me as a character. I didn't see so much of the point for 2 or 3. The CI, the
Yeah,
woman who was
that's true.
CI spy,
That's
and
true.
3, the hitman. They were kind of the same character. Like, I understand that they had like different different specialties according to the movie, but they were just both two badass killers.
Right.
So you could have had one of them maybe die early on, and instead it kept Dave Franco on.
Well, I
Not to take
mean,
away from Seven, he was I like that actor. He's pretty good, but they,
the thing is, I could see them working together because they were kind of like their own team within the team, especially with their love interest and stuff.
yeah,
But the one character that actually did not do anything that she had to do was the doctor. She's a doctor. She only acted as the doctor in the beginning of the film, and then that's it. We had no more doctor. We just had
Mhm.
her being a badass like killer also.
I like that actress too. She was in Good
Yeah, I
Omens.
know, but she
It's a
didn't
pretty good
do
show.
anything that had to do doctor related.
Yeah, at the end
Yeah,
of the
she,
like she was
she
just a
acted more like
distraction.
a tech expert.
She was like the attractive
Yeah,
distraction, basically, in the
Yeah.
yeah,
movie, kind of a
yeah.
way.
Um, I have, you know what? I just thought about this now. The film could have been better simply by instead of killing Franco, leave him alive, and then call the movie Seven on the Ground, and then the first mission shows them that they're not good enough yet and they need a veteran, so they go out and recruit someone that's a veteran.
Yeah, you didn't
They're
have
like,
to
you
really
know what? I think we need seven, and boom,
character.
they get number seven.
Yeah, that probably would have been better because I don't know. I didn't see why they got rid of him. I
Yeah, but they
enjoyed
would
the
have added then like another 30 minutes to the movie.
yeah.
Maybe, I guess. I mean, I
You
don't, I don't know.
know,
Like, it's
they,
just,
It's not like they needed like a huge amount of time to do the recruiting the way they did it because like he just showed up at some point in the movie. Essentially, it's like, oh, here's this guy who like went through this tragedy, and now Ryan Reynolds is here, and he's going to recruit you. Like
yeah.
all that could have basically happened in the same amount of time if you had
Yeah,
kept Dave.
nothing necessarily needed to be changed. I think like I read a little bit online that this is supposed to be like um Michael Bay Unleashed because since it's on Netflix, there's no real rating bar. Like, there's no reason not to give him free range, right? Like, you kind of got to make Ninja Turtles and Transformers PG-13 because he wants to have as many people buy tickets. It's on Netflix, so it doesn't even matter anymore, which is why we had literal head explosions and stuff like that, which he doesn't necessarily get to do. Um,
Man,
so
bodies,
if this
man,
is Michael Bay Unleashed, please somebody put chains back on him.
shaky can.
they basically gave him $150 million and said, do whatever the hell you want. You
Yeah,
know?
man, seriously.
And that's just the
So
beginning of the movie. Honestly, even the beginning of the movie is already like vintage, insane Michael Bay. But it's actually, like I said, I enjoyed the beginning.
I want to hear
Um,
from Eli actually.
Uh,
This is the first time that I'm like looking forward to Eli's reviews.
yeah. I'm pretty sure mine's is gonna be the same as everybody else's, especially AJ's. But
Is it the first time you guys agree?
Possibly.
I can't
possibly,
I can't
yeah,
think of another time. Wow. Unity through Six Underground. Amazing.
yeah.
So yeah,
Okay.
Eli, go ahead.
So I liked the idea of the magnet thing, but it seems too out of the ordinary. Like it wasn't really fit for an action movie. The same thing with like, I mean, it seems like Fast and Furious type, and I know that Walt said that, and I don't remember who else, but it
Me.
seems like yeah, you AJ, it's like it was too crazy. The plot was overhyped, definitely with the 3 heists, but I do understand why. Because they had to track down the generals in order to obtain the info on where he was. They had to find the good brother. That's what I'm naming him. I forgot what his name was.
it was Murat.
Murat, yeah.
yeah.
But like you don't have to have a third one. If you're like you could just like you that's why you have a sniper. You can assassinate like the evil brother. Just assassinate him and then
That's
the
true.
next in line would be the
Well,
good. brother.
No, not necessarily, because that's actually why they needed to do a coup, because they didn't want to just assassinate. Because it's one thing to just kill and this is actually kind of true. This is where I felt like they kind of got a few things right. It's like this is really how you overthrow a government. You have to not just kill the top of the top of the dictator, because then the generals would just take the place, just like in a lot of these countries when somebody gets
Mhm.
killed, it's the generals that take over and they rule militarily. So you got to take out the generals as well. But not only that, you also have to have the public on your side, right? You got to have the people. You got to have the coup come from the people, not just from an assassination.
Well, actually, but the thing was, before the third heist, didn't they do the thing with the how it spread it to the public, and also with the generals, the whole point of the first heist was to kill all of the generals. The before the third one, that's when Murat, I think he
Mhm.
spoke to the public, and then that would be it, would it not? And then after Murat spoke to the public, that's when you assassinate the dude. But I don't know. Now that I'm saying it, it feels like I feel like that would be too.
Yeah, we wouldn't have a movie at that point
Yeah.
because that
Yeah,
third act
yeah.
being
You
They
wouldn't have a
hadn't
plot
really
anymore.
made about 30 minutes of that movie, probably,
yeah.
if we're being honest. Because, I mean, there were almost sequences where, like, there were throwaway bits of action. Because it was like, this action scene is over, and then, like, for a split second, they have a conversation, and then another bad guy rushes out, and they kill that bad guy. And then they have a conversation again for a couple seconds. And another bad guy rushes out, and they kill that bad guy. Like, there was just
Yeah,
so
there was.
much. There were no moments of respite that you normally find in a really good action movie, in my opinion.
You
It's
know
just
what the issue is? That this
it's
is
kind of
like
weird.
this is just something that's very unique to Michael Bay, and it's the Michael Bay comedy. And I like to call back to some of the best examples of the Michael Bay comedy and some of the worst examples. Best examples of Michael Bay comedy is Will Smith and Martin Lawrence in Bad Boys when they're getting shot at, and they'll shoot, then talk crap to each other and kind of roast each other, and then shoot, go back to roasting each other. It plays well. It looks awesome. It's great. Bad example of that is Ninja Turtles. In Ninja Turtles, they kind of some of that same stuff would happen. They would like have action scene, but then like forget about everything that's going on around us, all the people trying to kill us and the explosions. Let's get into like this little rift between me and you, Leonardo and Raphael, and then back to the action scene, then back. Like he doesn't. It's something that's very specific to his movies. But I don't think that it played that great in this one. Yeah, I think it was just too much of it, actually.
Yeah, it was very nonstop, and like Walt said, bodies flying everywhere at a frenetic
Yeah,
pace for
yeah,
the entire runtime of this movie. Um, what I definitely will say is I enjoyed some of the stunts and some of the set pieces in this movie, but like it suffers from the same issue that I see in most Michael Bay movies, is that his camera work is too shaky, and it annoys me because it kind of it downplays one thing that he's really good at, which is stunt set pieces. You don't get to see it like in its fluidity, and like you don't see how cool some of the work some of these stunt people are doing. Like for instance, some of the parkour stuff. Although I think that some of that was really cool and it's really well shot from Ford's perspective, where he was doing the parkour. Some of it was kind of
yeah,
first person, and that was kind of cool. But like the shaky cam doesn't let you see like kind of the grace of some of the action in these movies.
yeah.
And
That's true.
it drives you crazy after a while. And the Transformers movies suffered from that too, I feel like.
I think it's not even the shaky cam. It's like the more movies he makes, the more he wants to do 45 worm's eye view angles, right? And it'll just switch to 45-degree on the right side worm's eye view and then back to the other way. And it's like I feel like if anything, you're like a dog that like that thing that dogs do when they're confused, that they turn their head and then they turn it again. I feel like that's what Michael Bay's doing with the camera.
Um,
Yeah.
Actually, I pointed out one scene. It was during the parkour part with I think it was one of like the backstories for what was his name, Billy.
Yeah.
Um, it looks like he had a GoPro on, and I swear, like I even said this to AJ, that I would have if I hadn't seen the rest of the movie, I would have thought it was like one of those compilations on Facebook where it's like freaking only parkour and it has that overhyped music.
Did
I
they do Run?
swear.
Weren't
Huh?
you guys bugging out over the use of the song Run?
Yes. Oh
Yeah.
my
Oh
god.
my god, I can't believe they put a meme in the movie.
Yo, that was
But
Oh,
that's Michael Bay for you. It's Bayham, Bayham, Mayhem,
yeah,
Bayham.
man.
It's just it's utter. It's an assault on the senses, really.
Oh god, that's
You
why
know?
they even had like the seizure warning at the beginning of the movie. You guys all saw that,
Did
right?
they?
See, there was
I didn't realize that.
strobing. Yeah, there was a strobing lights effect, like seizure warning at the beginning of the movie, and like that
Oh my
was kind of
gosh!
what it was like to experiencing it. To experience it, it was just hammering with you. And the only respite that I did enjoy, even though it was too long and it wasn't perfectly paced, was when they did tell the characters' backstories. I liked some of their backstories; they were kind of interesting to a certain extent, even though
Yeah,
some of them were cliche. I thought they were kind of interesting. I don't know. What did you
I,
guys
I
think?
just I didn't like the way they interspersed it within the movie.
Yeah, the
yes,
pacing was weird. The pacing was weird on that.
Yeah, I think it took away because you have action, action, action,
Mhm.
break. Let's tell this guy's story.
yeah,
Action,
that
action,
didn't make
action,
sense. I
and
didn't
then
like that
break
at
again.
all. I think that the way it should have been done is everything from the new guy's perspective, because he's the new guy, so you should show scenes of him trying to get to know each individual character, and it should have been, hey, this was my backstory, and this is how one saved me. That does a little bit of character building for one, without one being the one telling you who he is and stuff like that.
You
Uh,
could have done it the way they did it in Saving Private Ryan,
yeah.
where you had that kid and he's going around asking,
yeah, yeah,
you know,
exactly,
the
exactly.
other
It's
troops,
just ah, you know, that actually kind of makes me mad and upset because I see how this movie could have been done so much better, and we're not gonna get the good. I almost kind of get the Star Wars feeling. It's like there's a good underlying, there's potential, but it's wasted. You know?
Hey Gabe,
Yeah.
don't fret too much because I was reading online. They're trying to make Netflix is trying to make this a franchise. We may
Yeah.
get
No, I
more of
know.
these movies.
What?
You know,
I know. I know. I mean,
don't.
but I do hope that like they get better in the sense that like they don't need to do a lot of character building. I guess not that they did much in this one, but I just hope it's a little bit more coherent. You know?
And that was oddly done in another way too, because they had some exposition that wasn't really necessary to be done in real time or in the present. Like you had the whole sequence with three going to visit his mother who had dementia in the hospital where she
Yeah.
was, or in the
Hmm.
home care place. I'm like, and then you have Ryan Reynolds popping out
You know
and kind of
that did
threatening
serve a
him on
purpose
that, but that
actually.
doesn't
That,
go.
no, no, no. That did serve a purpose. It served the purpose of dehumanizing Ryan Reynolds' character so that you have the opportunity to humanize him in the end.
Right, but the way that everyone else's backstory was told was very different, and that's why I guess
Yeah.
the way that it was done was a little strange for me because they didn't give you a lot of his backstory up until that point in the present, and
Well,
You
everyone
know,
else
that's
I,
was more of their past.
he played the role of comedy relief mostly.
Yeah,
You know,
and he
yeah.
was funny
which is
in
something
some
that
parts,
Michael
especially
Bay.
when
Yeah,
he
that's
started
something that Michael
movies.
Bay likes to do. He likes to take
Mm.
one character and just solely make him uh,
Yeah.
the comic relief. And the disturbing thing for me is that that's the second time I've seen him do that to a Spanish character because he's done that in the Transformers movies where you had that Spanish guy and he's, all
Ooh,
he did was just
which
play
one?
the fool in the movie.
And
You
Revenge
know,
of the Fallen.
yeah, Revenge of the Fallen was it?
Oh, I don't.
Yeah.
I don't remember seeing that one. But he did it. He did it in the second Transformers movie with the two robots that are black guys.
Yeah, exactly.
Mhm.
That
It's a
is,
little
yeah, that's
disturbing.
very uncomfortable. It's like it's too childish, you know what I mean? And the thing that I don't like is that they kind of revert. He basically is essentially wants to do the fart joke of the movie, essentially, right? He wants to take one character, and then something really stupid happens to him, and now he's just a bumbling idiot. Like when he got hit
Hmm.
with the laughing gas, all of a sudden, like. These guys are professionals. They got masks, but somehow he gets hit with the laughing gas, and now
Well,
he's a
he took the
bumbling idiot
filter off.
that ends up like compromising the entire mission because he's such an idiot.
Yeah,
He did that.
he
He
took the
did it in
filter off.
Armageddon. He did it in Armageddon with Steve Buscemi's character. Remember, he gets like
Hmm.
space dementia, and all of a sudden he's like
Yeah.
he's riding the nuke and stuff.
Yep.
No
But that
nukes, no
character,
nukes, no nukes.
yeah,
Yeah,
that
you know,
character took off the filter to put that stupid smiley sticker on to
Yeah, that's right.
and again it was a funny moment, but what's purpose did it serve really?
Yeah, I
You
know.
know
It just served the purpose of the fart joke. It's like, ha ha ha, look at
exactly.
that guy, he's an idiot. But I think we've matured a little bit from that. It seems like
Yeah.
all this stuff was really funny and cool when I was like a teenager, but I feel like I've grown up and Michael Bay hasn't. Andre,
Yeah.
I haven't really heard from Andre. AJ rather. Sorry.
Yes.
What's what's your kind of take on the movie? I
I
mean,
just
aside
wanted to
My
make
from
a
your
take
quick
or
point
is
to kind of
that this
to
should
kind of
be
say,
the huh?
hey, I just wanted to make a quick point also about how that character, the Hispanic character, was the comic relief character, and not really about how he was a racial character in terms of the comic relief, but more so like if you think about it, there's two comic relief characters in this movie because you have Ryan Reynolds, who's the main character, who has to play the
yeah.
role of street man as well as comic relief because of the way this movie is set up. So for me, that also kind of doesn't make it work if you're going by
Yeah.
the formula. Just a quick
Oh,
thought on that. Hmm.
so just I I haven't been. I'm not much of an action movie person anymore. I'm not gonna lie. Fast and the Furious movies, not too fond of.
Same.
This just put it on a completely different level. Like I'm sorry, I couldn't stand it. I really just can't. The only thing that I found remotely funny in the movie was when number three repeatedly punched that guy in the face, saying, "Look, I'm gonna knock him out," and he doesn't knock him out after each and every punch, and it's just assaulting the poor brother of this dictator.
That's
you know,
like the movie in a nutshell.
you know what's one thing that I didn't get? So first of all, I've actually been hit with laughing gas, and that's not how laughing gas works. First of all, okay. I've had to get laughing gas essentially given to me because I needed to get a molar taken off, and the reason
Mhm.
it's called laughing gas is because first it knocks you out, and then when you come out of the anesthetic, you laugh because you're high. But first thing that it
Yeah,
does is
religion.
completely puts you to sleep. And then when you wake up is when you start laughing. It does not work the way that it did in the movie at all. And then the second thing is when he hits the guys with laughing gas and then he's mad at somebody that's laughing at him. He starts grabbing it like, "Oh, you laughing at me? You think I'm funny? You think I'm a joke?" And starts beating the crap out of him and then makes him like use his thumb for like a fingerprint. I'm like, dude, you hit him with the laughing gas. Like, it's not like what the hell's wrong with you? It just kind of makes him seem like an idiot.
Yeah, the movie's all over the place, really. You know.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, the only characters that I found somewhat intriguing were one, of course, because Ryan Reynolds. If he wasn't in this movie, I would. I'm going to be honest, and this kind of gives away my overall feeling about it. I probably wouldn't have watched the whole movie. Um, like I said, I found two and three to be, although interesting in some ways, mostly like throwaway character or yeah, mostly throwaway characters. Four was interesting. Five didn't do much. We missed out on six, and seven was okay. Like in terms of both the acting and everything else, in terms of
You
how
know,
much they did overall.
I kind of have feelings towards Seven where like I didn't necessarily think that his backstory was bad. I thought his backstory was great actually because
Mhm.
he represents what the scenario is for a lot of people, in the military that have gone through these situations. like he did. Which the backstory for him is that he was a sniper that's covering his team, and he is warning his. He's asking permission to shoot the driver of a van that's full of bombs and explosives that has the UN marker on it. However, he's not getting the permission to shoot, so he doesn't take the shot, and the van blows up essentially his whole team.
Hmm.
He's only the lone survivor because he's perched out, as a sniper, and whatnot, and so he has to deal with the struggle of being the lone survivor. It's called survivor's remorse, and these are the people that are most often the victims of suicides from PTSD because they feel like they should have been there and they should have died with them and stuff like that, right? So his cover story also for how he exited his actual real life was cool. I personally just don't I feel bad saying this, but of course, as a if we're gonna review a movie, we got to review every part of it, including the performances. And I don't necessarily think that it was acted the best by the person that portrayed the character Seven. I
Yes.
think that too much of the stereotypical angry black man came out of him, and I don't like seeing the stereotype of an angry black man on screen, especially when he's the only black character in the entire film.
Yeah, I mean, I think the backstory was pretty good, but I think the situations that they put him in, he didn't fit into the team, like you said. He was on a much higher level than everybody else, except for one who had that unexplained moment where he knows martial arts that Seven even commented on because he's like this weird in the team guy, but also an observer who's supposed to represent maybe the viewer, but I still don't really see how that fits his character. So it kind of ends up with a great backstory, but then the execution
Yeah.
ends up being a little jumbled.
I mean, again, like I say, a lot of great potential in this. I like the idea of like where they were going with it and everything, but I just don't think that yeah, the execution is really really the missing issue. And again, for me a lot of it has to do with like editing. I think that if you have the first 15 minutes which was really high paced car chase scene, and then the next portion, which is the actual first act, be all the backstories back to back in a way after you introduce Seven, and then you have him kind of go through the backstories of each individual character. Once you get all the backstories out of the way, then you can have the scene with Three going to his mom and all that stuff, and you can have the rest of the movie play out in a little bit more of a coherent manner where the movie makes a little bit more sense. I think there's a lot of potential there, but it misses the mark from a pacing and positioning point of view, in my opinion. So
Th- that would have worked to get the stories out of the way at the beginning too, but even if you wanted to intersperse it throughout the movie the way that they did, a more effective way maybe in a narrative sense would have been to have their backstories come out in a scene or a sequence either before or after they have to do something related to their use in the team. Right? So like you give their backstory maybe before they have to do something that shows their specialty.
you
That
know
could have
the
worked.
the reason I don't think it could work is because of all the other elements of a Michael Bay film. There's so much going on
Yeah,
with everything that he wants to do
yeah.
that's why it doesn't work. See, it can work in a movie like Ocean's 11 where backstories are given sporadically, but it's also a much slower paced movie without like a bunch of bells and whistles, explosions, camera angles, and a lot of hectic on screen stuff going on. So like because it's hard to like cut away from all this like chaos for a backstory, but in Ocean's 11 it'll work because there's not a lot of chaos.
What did you guys think of? I wanted to ask, what did you guys think of? Because I thought like most of the characters had a somewhat intriguing backstory when we got it. It wasn't terrible for some of them. Some were better than others. But what did you think of like one's backstory? Because why did they portray him? He's very very kind of difficult to understand as a character. He's a billionaire who's faked his own death, I guess, but is also
Yeah.
a super genius, which is why we had the Iron Man reference, I guess. Like what did you guys think of him as a character? Because I found him to be, I guess, the Michael Bay movie, so he's not over the top, but like I just thought it was strange. Like he seemed to me like almost a Deus ex machina character that just needed to do whatever the plot required at moments.
No, I I liked his character, but I'll go into why I liked him and whatnot. I know Walt and Eli and stuff have to get a chance to speak over here. I feel like I'm kind of
Mhm.
taking over the mic and stuff, but Walt, what did you guys think? Walt, Eli, AJ, what do you guys think of one? And I'll give my thoughts after.
Well, first things first. I don't understand how he was a billionaire, but then all of a sudden he turns into like a freaking hitman. Like he was
Yeah.
doing like some really, really like he it looks like he was trained to like fight, but like
Hmm.
all the
Hmm.
backstory portrayed him as was a billionaire and somebody who was like literally um uh help helping a charity organization. He seemed like
Yeah.
he seemed like a normal person. Well, considering like normal billionaire person.
It's like Jocko all of a sudden being able to fight the likes of Vegeta.
Yeah, bro, for real,
Yeah.
for real.
For me, I didn't understand the
Gotcha.
character because okay,
Yeah.
I didn't get his character because originally they portray him in the I guess in the medical refugee camp and whatnot,
No,
where he was pretty aloof.
Yeah.
He was just there for the photo op, the social media opportunity, and stuff like that. It didn't seem like
no. I think you guys missed it
Iron
a
Man.
little bit. So what
no.
it is that
Yeah.
he's
Uh-huh.
he's essentially an Elon Musk kind of character, somebody
Yeah.
that like creates, he uses his
No, I
intellect,
get that, but
but he's also a what's the word, a philanthropist, and the reason he was out there was from a philanthropist point of view, not because he's in the medical field himself, but because he's a philanthropist and he's just trying to get like the photo ops and stuff like that and do a little bit of
right.
helping, you know.
But I didn't get the sense that he was truly invested in what he was doing. I think he was just doing it because of the fact that what, hey, I'm throwing my money around. I'm the rich guy. Look at me. I'm doing all these great things with my
Yeah,
money. But it
I
didn't
think
feel like he was really invested
I think he was
in
genuine.
in that
you know
particular region. He
and
was
you want
just
to know.
there with a photo op for him. And out of all of the characters, I think his backstory was the weakest because there are so many questions as to what he is. How does he know the things that he knows? They really didn't. They just kind of put him out there and expected you to know that he's a tech guy. That we
Yeah,
don't know what kind of company he runs. We don't know his interests. Again, with that whole refugee camp, it wasn't that they didn't show him as a person that cared for the people that were there. He was just throwing his money around, and there was even a point where it's like, oh, look, it's just a rich guy, you know and
Yeah. And I
so for
mean,
him to turn around and all of a sudden see the destruction, it just seemed like a very stark turn. Whereas if they had shown him kind of being there, it's like, oh, I'm here for you guys, walking around amongst all the people and acting more
yeah.
invested, then that turn would have been a little bit more believable, you know?
but you know
Yeah.
why?
And
You
you
know
know,
the thing is that it's Elon Musk is the wrong reference. It's the Tony Stark, because I think what they were
yeah.
doing there is the same thing that Tony Stark did in Iron Man 1, where he's in the Humvee and he's like trying to be cool and like let's take a picture, peace sign up and stuff like that. He's trying to do, like, I think that's what they were trying to emulate. The rich guy that's doing something and whatnot and it's just there for the photo op, but
Yeah, I get
but
that.
he
I get that. It's
right,
it's
but I think they just did it too condensed, right? Because they showed that,
exactly
and then the thing that changed him from being this, billionaire, super smart guy to somebody that wants to save the world was all in just that one scene where, you know, all those people died and he walked away carrying the little girl. I think
right,
they just,
exactly.
yeah,
Well,
You know,
and
with
one
with
weird
Tony,
thing.
with Iron Man and Tony Stark, you had that moment, and then he was broken, and he was injured, and he had to rebuild himself, and there you saw him changing as a character. In this one, they blow up a thing, and then all of a sudden, he's like a heart of gold. You know what I mean? I think
Right.
it was just exactly what you said. It was way too condensed to make it believable and whatnot.
Yeah.
I don't think it has
Jose's
to be
guy's hand.
necessarily. I don't think it needs to be necessarily that believable, but like I also think that there were a couple of holes that were a little too huge because the way that he describes himself, he practically invented the modern world. Like you figure if this guy's running around doing anything anywhere in the world, people will recognize him. Like cuz he didn't change his appearance. Like what did he say he invented like all of these things that essentially define the modern world like at one
He
point
invented
in the
cell
movie
phones.
unless he was joking. Yeah, like, and nobody knows who this guy is running around and doing his terrorist hunting activities, gallivanting all over the world. Okay, I mean, but whatever. That's
That is
that's
kind of a big hole. You're right about that.
that's a little odd to me. But um, what did you guys think about the villains in this movie as well? And that kind
Well,
of
hold on. Before we get there, uh,
yeah.
do you think that if Elon Musk was in the same vicinity as the president and the generals of, you know, Turkmenistan, do you think that they might be able to recognize him?
Um, possibly, yeah, possibly.
Yeah. I think that there is some plausibility for it, but you know,
I mean, if he's one of the most famous people on the planet,
that
that's
died 4 years ago.
like you still, I don't know. I mean,
You can have
it's still a
doppelgangers and stuff, but anyway, regardless,
well, a lot of
the
people
movie has a ton
also
of holes. I definitely get that. That is true.
a lot of people also saw them in this movie because they
yeah,
killed everybody.
yeah, yeah.
So,
That's true. Yeah.
but then again, they killed everybody, right? So there's no
I
witnesses
guess
left.
it doesn't matter, except
Well,
for
Um,
when he was
one
like
thing
a
I
motorcycle
will say
biker.
though. Oh,
What
what?
was
okay.
that?
Hmm.
Well, one thing I will say though, remember there's a point where the the evil dictator is speaking to like this British woman, remember?
Yes.
Where they're saying, "Well, how do we not know who these people are?" And she literally points to the doctor. I forgot what number she is,
5.
and
Hmm.
she's like, "Well, yeah, we don't know who they are, but she died 4 years ago."
Yeah. So how do you
And
not know who she
all
is
this
if
thing
she's
about, well,
English?
we go after the threads of when the so that part didn't make sense to me because like you know she was like, well, we attach threads and we do all of that, but she died 4 years ago. What, you
I
can't
think
do
like
that?
what they did was
She
poorly
has,
explained.
I'm pretty sure she has family. I'm pretty sure she had friends. You know what I'm saying? That didn't make sense to me.
I think it's because what they were trying to do was explain how, like, hey, this doctor died 4 years ago, but yet we don't know who they are in the sense that there's no passports being registered, there's no driver's licenses being registered, there's no money trail, there's no paper trail. A better thing they should have said is like, hey, we don't know who they are because they died 4 years ago, so this is who the person is, but there's no paper trail ever since then. So
But
they're
they do have
here and they're in China and stuff like that, huh?
but they
Yes.
do have a past. And so if
Yeah.
Yeah,
you're
I
trying
know.
to locate these people, what's the first thing that you do? I mean, even shows like Supernatural are smart enough to do that, where they say, well, if we can't get the person, let's go after either family or friends or colleagues or
Yeah.
acquaintances, because obviously she knew who that person was.
Yeah, that's a big hole. Yeah, that's a
It's
big
like
one.
the entire basis of Spider-Man and all superhero comic books is that's why you have a secret identity. And if you go around
Yeah.
the world, even if you've been dead for in quotes for however long they've been dead, they still recognized that they were dead
Um,
people that once existed.
who
Anyway,
brought up the villains?
I was wondering what you guys thought about the villains and like maybe the plot overall of the villains as well as the plot to overthrow the villains, I guess, overall. Even though I know we don't focus on that much again in a Michael Bay movie, but um, just a very quick thought for me. I actually didn't like the whole good brother, bad brother thing. I think somebody said that earlier also. I might, I didn't like necessarily that was part of the plot. I think that's been overdone in a lot of stuff recently, and that's kind of the reason why. Not to spoil it too much, but I wasn't as big of a fan of season 2 of Jack Ryan as I was the first. Because I like characters to have, because you could even do that in a cheesy action movie. You can have characters be a little bit more human and complex. So I didn't like that there had to be a good guy and a bad guy.
Yeah, that's true.
Simple thoughts.
I only have one word, and it's a word I mentioned in the opening 6-word description. Murica.
That's why.
That is basically the plot to me. Murica.
Yeah.
Me
Same goes for
personally,
the villains too.
I'm sorry.
Same goes for the villains too.
Yeah.
You know, me personally with the villains, what I don't like is, you know, this villain, the main villain, you know, the president of Turkmenistan, I guess, one of those stands.
No, it's Turkestan. I think that's a fictional.
Turkestan. Okay.
Fictional, yeah, it's a fictional
Okay.
country. That's why I
So
know
all right.
it.
So anyway, the president, he essentially to me was essentially like a carbon copy of the main villain from Bad Boys 2, the Cuban guy and stuff.
Yeah.
Who,
Yeah, that's kind of true.
you know, he plays this like playboy that's disillusioned with it, not disillusioned, but like he's, you know, has like these illusions of grandeur, and then everything he's doing is right, you know, but he's also like into flashy things and stuff like that. And then actually now that I think back on it, the ending of the movie kind of plays the same way as the ending of Bad Boys 2, where he retreats to his boat. And in Bad Boys 2, the guy retreats to his villa in Cuba, and then they got to find a way onto the boat, you know, and extract and this, that, and the other. And, you know, man, Michael Bay's got to stop rehashing his own plots. But yeah, like I didn't like him as a main villain simply because he never gave me the president of a country feel. You know,
No. He felt more like a henchman, if anything.
yeah, he really did. You know, and you know, if you're president, you have a lot more at your disposal. You know, if you lose 4 generals, then guess what? You're just gonna barricade yourself with your entire army. Then, you know, I don't see how he lost his 4 generals, and then from that point on, he's just traveling around with a couple like security guards and stuff, and just didn't make any sense.
I think he was very much a cartoon character, and you know, it's interesting because you guys remember that scene then, right? Where he lost his 4 generals, and then all of a sudden they're having a meeting at the top of the building, and he picks the next 4 in line, and instead of, you know, having them, you know, promoted to that thing, he throws them off the building, and then says, "Well, those guys, I don't trust them. I'm gonna trust." Everything about that character, you know, the thing about this movie, the movie wasn't about the villain. It was more the action to get the villain out of there, because you could have put anybody in that role, and it really didn't matter. It could have been a villain. It could have been the president. It could have been just a general. It could have been, you know, anybody.
Yeah.
He really, you know.
But look, I kind of like that rooftop scene, though. I kind of like that rooftop scene.
What was that?
It was a cool scene in itself. Like,
I kind of like that rooftop scene because you have to remember what he said also, because he was like, these 4 men are the 4 men who stood to gain the most from the loss of the other 4 generals.
Yeah,
so I can't trust them. Like, that was interesting, but like it was over the top. But like, to me, that's not even the part that didn't make sense. It's more what Wolfie is saying. It's like at that point he should have been on lockdown after all that happened. No matter who did it. That's more why it didn't really resonate with me, because then it would have been more like, here's a guy with power. You know what I mean? Like you both kind of said, like, here's a president, here's the leader of a nation who can now like create this huge obstacle that they now have to overcome, which they never really did. Like Wolfie said, there was no big obstacle they had to overcome either. It was
right. And again, he was just a cartoon character, because his actions were, well, you know, they're going to invade. Well, I'm going to bomb my people to let
Yeah.
them know what happens if you guys do something to us. And it was constantly this, trying to get overdo the next action. Well, if I bombed my people in the camp, now the next action is I'm going to bomb all the hospitals, all the schools. He was.
The plot was
I
very
didn't
thin.
sense like he was anything,
Yeah.
except just like a plot device to say, oh well, he's a real bad guy. We gotta get rid of him.
Yeah, it doesn't make a lot of sense.
I want to agree with Jose, because I feel like if you're a public figure and you're at risk of like being like harmed or even killed, and because he was killed in this movie, so
Yeah, in a
I feel
different
like
way.
you're the one who's making the plans, but you're not necessarily going out directly to the firefight. You stay inside, like you're whatever it is, like Donald Trump. He doesn't. Yeah,
Oh boy.
yeah. Well, that's not even a good example. No, because he's not even a
Yeah,
president.
he didn't attack the problem, and you feel like
Yes,
a
definitely.
dictator with
Facts,
power like
facts.
that
Don't.
would attack it, would attack the problem. But I mean, I feel like that's how they would do it. But what else do you think, Eli?
I felt like he should have been on lockdown, and I felt like he should have been on lockdown because he is a public figure.
He was a disposable
It was
villain.
just, yeah. And the thing is, like, he shouldn't be a disposable villain when he's the main villain. I can understand everyone else being clearly disposable villains, but it just doesn't make sense. And then the other thing too is, I don't know, like, I thought that it was really thin to have his brother basically in a penthouse prison in Hong Kong. Um, you know, like a better storyline would have been that his brother is in hiding, and the president of this country can't seem to find his brother, while his brother is doing secret communications to try to start up a revolution. Because so you're telling me now that, like, this guy who has been in hiding for X amount of years, completely away from the public, all of a sudden has the entire trust of the nation to now lead them and control them.
Yeah,
I
and the
don't see how
revolution
that would be
started in
possible.
5 minutes.
Yeah, the revolution completely started. The entire country was overtaken in 5 minutes under the leadership of this guy that they haven't seen in X amount of years and don't even know if they can trust him. Like, how do you gain this? Like, it's just Michael Bayism.
Yep.
I mean, well, as much as it doesn't make sense, I feel like the only reason it would make sense is because maybe they just don't want the guy there. They would do anything to take him
was
out.
bombing
That's
Yeah.
true.
the country regularly.
Oh,
Can't imagine they like.
No, go on.
I can't imagine like I know you have to be careful with these kinds of choices, but I guess part of the beauty of Bayism is that you can take everything at face value.
Yeah, it's just a bunch of cool scenes put together in X amount of time limit. I guess when Michael Bay doesn't have any restraint, he has no time limit. I feel like he just did like a bunch of scenes and decided not to. He just told his editor, "Don't leave anything out. I don't want to make a director's cut. Just put it all together."
God.
So I want to ask, what are your guys' favorite parts of the movie, or favorite scenes, and least favorite scenes, or least favorite parts? One and one. I can go ahead and go first to give you guys some time to think about it.
Yeah. Go ahead.
So-
Start us off.
So I would say that my favorite scene. Well, let me start with my least favorite scene. Actually, my least favorite scene was really the part where, like, out of nowhere, the parkour guy is being like fake tortured and like about to get like killed.
Mhm.
by Ryan Reynolds by one and shit. And like I don't understand. Like I still don't actually I don't know if I missed something, but I don't get like what happened in that scene. But I felt like that was completely unnecessary. Like you can completely skip that entire section of the movie and it adds no weight and value to the film at all. I mean if anything it'll I think it'll make the movie play better if you remove that scene altogether.
Hmm.
Um my favorite scene is towards the end, which I think it's probably the most coherent character development scene for one, which is Ryan Reynolds. He is visiting in Italy the woman that he ends up sleeping with throughout the movie. And it turns out that he has a kid.
Hmm.
And in this one scene where he has no dialogue, you have his reason for being. You know, he wants to make the world a better place for his child. And we see him go into like a lockbox in his shipyard or, you know, whatever. Um, and you can see that he has like, I guess, a will and testament that in the case of his departure, that all his money goes to his son. So that was probably my favorite scene because it did kind of bring his character development finally to fruition. It just did a little bit too late in the movie. So
Okay.
Um,
All right. Well, you guys already know what my favorite scene was, if you can even call it
credits?
favorite.
Mhm.
the end credits.
It's a good guess, but again,
Punch
the
me.
only highlight for me was when he tried so desperately to knock him out, but he just couldn't do it. And, like, it's butt
Good
humor,
scene.
but like, really, I kind of I didn't want to laugh, but it was like, oh my god, this is like something I'd find one of my characters doing, or one of the character. Never mind. Yeah, from the D&D.
Okay.
Yeah, he's talking about his D&D campaign, which
That would be like getting critical ones across the board.
yeah, trust me, that's not nice when that happens to you. Like, point is, you don't want that happening.
And then I guess for my actual least favorite scene, I mean, I didn't really. I mean, I'm not gonna say everything was bad, but like,
There's got to be one.
I guess if you had, okay, the mag. All right, here's what it is. We all know that this guy's specialty is magnets for some reason.
Right.
The whole
Mhm.
thing where the whole ship becomes a magnet, just like completely. Why did we need that? I honestly saw no need for that. Like, this is completely unnecessary.
That's true. I mean, it's a little bit of a far stretch. I mean, what, like people don't have like molars in their teeth and stuff, and I don't know how they have any guns that are completely plastic, but no one from the Underground 6 team was affected by the magnets, even though we for damn sure know that bullets have to work with metal casings.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, you know.
okay.
Didn't make
Um,
sense.
I'll go next, and I'll start with my least favorite scene, and I think that has to be that whole scene of the dictator and his brother in Hong Kong. It just, you know, a lot of the plot surrounding them just didn't make any sense. You know, for me, kind of like what you said, I think there was a better way to depict the brother. Maybe, like you said, either have him as an outcast of the country,
Yeah.
or you could even go one better and just make him like the man in the iron mask, where he has him in a prison somewhere. But
Oh, that's right.
yeah, that would have made even more sense. But instead, you have him in the lap of luxury. It didn't make any sense. I guess maybe it was brotherly love that you're going to imprison him in like a place that has terracotta statues and samurais and the best art and stuff. But I didn't get any of that. It was, you could have done that whole plot line so much better. Um, In terms of my favorite scenes, I have a hard time with that because I really didn't have a favorite scene. I mean, there were some bits and parts of a scene that I thought was inventive, and I thought that it was nice. But I mean, the 15-minute chase scene at the beginning was way too long. Um, but it
There was
had
too many people being hit.
Right. It had some interesting things about it. The magnet scene, while interesting in the way that they were ragdolling all the bad guys, where, like you said, none of the good guys were affected. Interesting, but there was really nothing that I like the parkour scenes. I guess if I had one choice,
The
I
parkour
like
was dope.
the first person view, the GoPro view. But again, like Eli said, that's something you can watch on YouTube and Facebook and Instagram. You don't have to spend 2 hours of a movie just to watch that to be your favorite scene. So
Yeah,
um,
that's true.
that's my thing.
The parkour scene could have been better without the meme song, I think.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. You
He
could have
just made it so cheesy by
you
doing the
could have
run. Dur,
been
dur,
so
dur,
much better with
dur.
that.
Why was that even a thing, bro?
I mean, there are movies that do parkour scenes exceptionally well. I remember the parkour scene in Casino Royale as being one of them. There's another French movie
Oh
which
yeah.
it escapes me, but the parkour and that was amazing. You didn't have to drop a meme song to
You
make
know,
it cool. You know what I'm
you
saying?
know
Yeah.
what? You know what made his character? I think actually overall his character was probably the best character in my opinion. But what made his character so good is well, the parkour for me in the movie good was the fact that you know, it was parkour because that's literally what he does. It's not parkour because it's just a cool little like in Casino Royale. There's parkour in it, but
Hmm.
it's like just a scene. This is this character's identity, which is
Yeah, that's
was
his life.
cool. I just wish it didn't have that song on there.
And some of the parkour stunts were great. I mean, remember when he was in that abandoned building, he was jumping from pillar to pillar. I mean, there
Yeah,
was some really good stuff there,
that
but
shit, yeah, that shit was crazy with an explosion going on in the background.
one guy who was literally there just to chuck grenades. It seemed like where this guy is parkouring from building to building, and that one guy is always in perfect position to throw a grenade. You know,
Yeah.
I don't know. That's
Uh,
Um,
uh,
So
I'm gonna go
Eli.
next.
mhm.
I'm gonna go next, and I'm gonna start off with my favorite scene because I don't really have a bad scene, and I think we all know why. But my favorite scene is probably the car chase scene. As much as it was like way too long for the whole entire movie, I felt that it was. I felt that it was really the most, other than like a few fight scenes, the most action packed out of the entire movie. The car chase scene, and that's all I have to say. So
Okay.
Jose. You're up
Uh,
next.
all right. So for me, the scene that I actually liked the most was I actually really enjoyed for the action and for the parkour and for some of the character development with what Wolfie said. I agree is one of the better characters. Was four. I like the Hong Kong scene. That whole action scene was pretty cool to me. Like I liked how they did all that crazy stuff with the pool. I like the parkour sequence. I like that's where they kind of turned one's character to somebody who cared a little bit more about the team. I like the jokes in that scene when three got hit by laughing gas, even though it was kind of stupid. Like some of the movies he was quoting and some of the things he was saying were kind of interesting. Like he quoted Breaking Bad when he was like, "I am the danger," and then Ryan Reynolds like said, "No more quoting movies," and
Yeah,
he's like,
that actually was
"That's
kind of
not a
funny.
that's not a
That's some
movie."
good jokes.
Yeah, like that was an interesting and decent scene. I think that was one of the better scenes in the movie, and um, but for me, the scene that I just really didn't enjoy was, like you said, a lot of even though he was one of the better characters, Or actually, no, that's not the scene I least enjoyed. Actually, the scene I least enjoyed was near the end. I didn't like the magnet craziness. I thought that was silly. I thought that was out of place with the rest of the movie. It was a little too sci-fi. It had one good joke where Ryan Reynolds said, he was like, "I feel like I'm using the Force." Um,
Yeah, that was really funny, actually.
that was funny, but like that was pretty much the only like redeeming quality of that scene. You had the crazy knives flying around and stabbing people. Like I feel like all those people should have just died from the initial magnets tossing stuff around the room.
I think it should have just been used once as
Yeah,
like a pal,
yeah,
and then that's it.
yeah,
But just like everything that's in Michael Bay, overused.
yeah. Overused, super overused. So that for me, that was my favorite scene and my least favorite scene.
All right.
All right.
Let's wrap
So
this baby up, then.
Yes.
should we then go into let's not yeah, let's make sure this podcast doesn't go as long as the movie. um Ratings.
I'll
Wait to hear Eli's.
I'll go first. For me, it was. I'm gonna say a 4 out of 10. It
Okay.
wasn't a great movie, really, by any means. There were some parts that were entertaining and some parts that were fun. Some of the characters were good and could have been good if they had been fleshed out more. And I think that 4 could have had his own freaking movie. Honestly, that could have been its own movie on its own with all that cool parkour and his theft background. His background as a thief, I mean.
Man, I just got another cool idea that would have
Yeah.
made the movie better. Go on, sorry.
So yeah, I'll make this relatively quick though, so you can make that point. But yeah, like it had some redeeming qualities, but overall, it was not an entertaining movie. It was way too long, and it was just like it was a cluster F without saying the actual curse word, but it was a cluster of too much, and that's why for me it was a 4 out of 10.
Okay. So I guess I'll go next so I can make my point then. I think I will probably I want to give this movie a 3 out of 10,
Mhm.
just because for me, if I base it like in my own head, I guess like 1 out of 3 would probably be skip it, don't watch it, it's not necessary.
Mhm.
So I want to give it a 3 because I really don't think that you need to watch it.
Mhm.
You can watch it if you want to just, I think, have something in the background with a few tidbits of humor here and there, but you don't really care to pay too much attention to the actual plot because there isn't one. Um, there isn't a good one, at least. So yeah, for me, it would end. It's a 3, where anybody that wants to can just skip it. I would say that like it can move to a little bit of a higher rating, I guess, if there's more movies to watch that kind of require it. If they come out with more films, but that's kind of where I'm at. And the point that I wanted to make is that like this movie would have been there's you shouldn't come out of a movie saying how it could have been so much better. Like we have so many times with Star Wars. God, I gotta stop bringing that up. Anyway, um, but essentially, it's the same situation for me. This movie would have been so much better if the movie focused on mainly Ryan Reynolds forming his team for the majority of the film, and then the final act will be the six. It's essentially like you could say keep it Deadpool-esque a little bit, but make sure that like his team of six don't die on the landing like they did in X Force in the actual Deadpool movie.
Mhm.
Um, but I think that the film would have been dope if it was just like he fakes his own death and then he wants to do something about like fixing the world. So he recruits his team and then they do their mission, just their one mission. And then the rest of the movies that come out can be about multiple missions. But unfortunately, Michael Blade doesn't like to simplify anything. So,
Dude, this could have
yeah,
been
that's where I'm at.
this could have been 2 different movies if you set it up your way. Actually, it
Yeah,
wouldn't have been
man.
bad that way.
Yeah. Yep.
Hmm.
So it's funny you say that because I was going to say that this movie probably would have been better served if they cut it in half.
Yeah.
I
Put
think
it on
that
Quibi.
it would have been. I don't think it would have fixed some of the issues that we're talking about, but at least I don't think we would have come out as exhausted as we did after watching the movie.
Yeah. I paused. I gotta. Sorry to interject, but I did actually pause the movie a couple times just to see how much time was left.
Yeah.
You're right, exactly. We did the same thing, you know. Um, I I literally finished watching this movie like maybe 20 minutes before we got on to talk about it. So
Mhm.
it's funny because as we go and we record this podcast, my feelings of the movie got worse and worse because I have one of my guilty pleasures is watching the movie Wanted. And it's
Yeah, I like that one.
yeah, that's a movie that's over the top, but I can watch that movie over and over again and not feel like I wasted 2 hours of my time. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
And I went into this movie kind of expecting that, knowing that it's Michael Bay and knowing that it's Ryan Reynolds and stuff like that. And when I initially stopped watching the movie, I said, okay, it's not that bad. But as we've gone on and, kind of broken down all the huge flaws that this movie has, my sense of the movie has gone down a little bit. Um, Initially, I thought this was a movie that if you wanted to waste some time and you had nothing better to do, this might be something that you can just, sit down, park your brain at the door and just say, hey, let's just watch it. But it's, and to echo what Jose said, if Ryan Reynolds wasn't in this movie would be utterly unwatchable.
yeah, that's true.
So that being said, you know, I have to give this movie a 4, and I'm being generous at that, you know. Um there are some good parts, and usually it's because of Ryan Reynolds, and he has a lot of charisma, and we all know the comedic actor that he is, and he could take anything and make it funny, um but there was just like I said, it was so exhausting to watch after a while. There was so much going on, and literally we did stop to pause it to see, okay, we're down to 20 minutes. I even text you guys. I said, hey, 30 minutes more and we're at the yacht scene. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
um I wanted to really like this movie, and I just
I know.
couldn't. You know, it sits at a very generous 4 for me.
Okay.
Yeah.
I, however, will not be very generous.
Uh,
You know what? It is sad. I genuinely thought that the premise for this movie would actually be pretty interesting. Yet somehow it's managed to completely blow up in my face. Like, it's one thing if you want to make a heist movie, but it's another thing to make a heist movie inside of a heist movie inside of a heist movie. There were a total of 3 heist sequences. Why did we need that? Like,
you had a lot of
I
steel.
get that you're trying to tell the story, but for me, that is incomprehensible. I cannot watch 3 straight sequences of the same goddamn thing.
Mhm.
Like,
Wow.
Oh, he said the goddamn word.
it really
Ah, so
just.
did you.
If I didn't like action movies before, this literally drove a nail in the coffin. Like, I'm sorry. I generally like to be open ended with my review of movies, but this was just. It was unbelievable, to
So-
say the least.
so-
So it's resting at a 2.5 for me.
So AJ, tell us what you really think.
Mhm.
I mean, wow. Okay, go for
It
it.
was a lot of
Okay.
different movies in one, though. I agree.
So, I think I have the harshest rating out of everybody, and I don't actually want to mess up like whoever's listening to this and make them think that like this movie is complete trash. So I'm just gonna be very generous when I say this.
Okay.
Initially, when I walked in, I had a 5 as my rating, and I really liked
Wow.
it. And when we started talking about this, just like Walt said, and we started breaking this down, it officially went down to a 2. So
Okay.
anyway, right? Making this very generous. I liked the car scene, and I liked Ryan Reynolds with his acting skill. Thank you very much.
Alrighty then.
Yeah. Passing the mic, dropping the mic.
And there you
Wow.
have it.
Yep.
So that puts the movie
Uh,
somewhere around a 3 or so on average, 3.5 between all of us. All right then.
I think this is the harshest rating we've given anything yet, right?
No,
No,
Rise
it's
of
not.
no Rise of Skywalker.
Technically,
Rise of
there
Oh, yes,
was
that's true.
also
Overall,
that movie where you
as a
couldn't
group.
even finish the review.
Oh, Dragon Ball Evolution?
Yeah.
oh yeah.
Oh, yes.
Yeah,
But
that's
we
a little-
never. So, just for our fans, me and Eli decided to watch Dragon Ball Evolution because we had just finished seeing Dragon Ball Super, and we figured it'd be a nice counterpoint.
Mhm.
We started recording the episode, and we just couldn't finish it because it was that bad. So
Yeah.
that episode is
That would
lying
have been a
in
waste of time for everyone.
somewhere.
Just
Well, this
just
was,
so you know, if you want to hear this like stupid load of trash about like freaking Dragon Ball Evolution, then please comment. Please.
Yeah, maybe you can do a mini hate review of that.
We
Well,
couldn't
yeah.
even do that, Jose. We couldn't even
No,
do that.
no. We did it. No,
We recorded like what? We recorded like 30 minutes,
no, not even. I don't think so.
like 20, or
Like 25.
25. Oh,
Well, that's
close to
something.
30, you know.
That's something.
We just couldn't do it. So.
That's quite a significant amount of opinion on that particular film, which I have refused to see actually, and I will never watch it. But
Yeah, never watch it.
this movie,
That
if
movie
anything,
doesn't exist.
we'll say like that we kind of pull this out to see like, hey, what random movie can we watch while we're all under quarantine and review together? So it didn't go so well. That's okay. That's what we're here for, to give you guys in-depth reviews for all of this kind of stuff. Any other final thoughts from you guys on this movie? A single word, perhaps?
I would have the internet to make sure that there are no sequels. End of story.
There probably will be. I would expect that there will be because it's Netflix and
It's possible, but not try it.
Oh, gosh. Is that right?
Yeah. All right.
all right then. So, as always, for all of you out there, thank you for joining us. We hope that you're all doing well. You're all doing safe out there, indoors, enjoying all of these great movies and TV shows. Let us know what you've seen. Let us know what you think about some stuff that's come out recently. Listen to some podcasts while you're inside, why don't you? And as always, you guys know you can find us on all major podcast platforms: Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, Spotify. Just search for our podcast online and you won't have a problem finding us. And you can also find us on Facebook, and you can find us on captivate.fm.getgeeknews as well. Check us out, guys, as always. Give us your feedback. And thanks for joining us for another episode of the Get Geek podcast. For the entire crew here, as always, I want to say, stay geeky, all of you out there, my friends.